Our plan for this session is to first hear from our panelists for 25 or so minutes. And then we're going to move into moderated breakout sessions where participants will have a chance to, in a more intimate setting, to talk about this issue and possible solution. So let's get started. In order to save time, I'm going to keep my introductions of our highly accomplished panelists very brief. First, we have Tara Holm. Tara is a member of the Tipsy Board and chair of the math department at Cornell University. She's a highly regarded researcher with a dedication to improving the quality of undergraduate mathematics education. She co-directs Tipsy's and MIT's online seminar for undergraduate mathematics education. Next, we have Bill LaCourse. Bill is Dean of the College of Natural and Mathematical Sciences at UMB. Bill is a biochemist and a true pioneer in active learning for undergraduate students in mathematics and the sciences. Our third panelist is Kimberly Muller. Kimberly is Dean of the College of Innovations and Solutions at Lake Superior State University in Michigan. Among many other innovations, Kimberly has developed very creative, community-based experiential learning projects for students in her college. If you have questions for our panelists during their presentations, please post them in chat, and we'll try to get to as many of them as we can following their presentation. So to get us our conversation started, I'm posed the following questions to our panelists. How significant is the learning loss, and what ideas have you implemented or considered to mitigate its effect? To get us started, I'm going to call on Tara Holm.
Thanks, Bill, Britt, and thank you for organizing this. I think this is a timely topic and an important one for us to, share ideas and figure out what works in a wide variety of contexts. So I hope that the experiences we've had at Cornell might be helpful to others. I would say that the learning loss is substantial. The difference between the first year students, and it's affected upper year students, but the biggest impact we've seen at Cornell is in our first year courses. At Cornell, we teach a wide variety of, so I guess I should start by saying that at Cornell, it is a private university, but it's also a land grant university. We have a broader mission than many of our peers in the Ivy League, for example. And we teach a large number of students. We teach 7,000 students a year in the math department at Cornell. And many of those students are taking first year courses, Calc 1, Calc 2. The engineers at Cornell all start in Calc 2. And so the challenges we see for the engineers are a bit different. In all cases, students in their first year, last year and this year, are really struggling to thrive in their math classes, especially. I don't know if it's especially worse compared to other disciplines, but I do know that they're struggling, and it's not just learning loss. I would say that we're also seeing students struggling with persistence and with resilience. I think their general skills for coping as a college student are not what we would typically see of first year college students. What we have been doing at Cornell to help mitigate this and to help the students thrive is we've done a few things. We've added some off-ramp courses for, we've always had off-ramp courses for students to sort of salvage the mathematics they've been doing and still earn enough credits in the semester to maintain their full-time status. We added sections on the fly last year and have been paying very close attention to how many sections we need to add so that students don't run into sort of credit hour difficulties. And then we've tried to be very nimble. And I think these are typical lessons learned in the pandemic. Just you as you're facing a challenge, we are much better at making last minute decisions and much more comfortable with the uncertainty of the semester than we might have been 3 years ago. So we've been adding some resources. We have a learning strategy center on campus that provides tutoring, and we've been trying to bolster the support that they have in order to help students. And then we also, for the engineering students, if they do not complete a math course in their first year, they really will, in fact, they could well be put on an academic leave. And so we have tried very hard to, in addition to adding the off-ramp courses and options for them, we added some or we created some new toolkits to help students who would be entering their courses this fall to hit the ground running when they arrive. And so I think these are, I think the answer that we have found, or the things that have been most successful for us, have been more of many of the things we used to do, but just reaching out to students at a higher rate and trying to support them as they try to navigate Cornell. And I think in addition to the persistence and resilience things that I've seen, I think that students also are not, they don't seem to have the same skills of reaching out for help in a way that they might have in earlier times. And so I think we are trying very hard, as a university, we're trying very hard to help the students navigate seeking out academic help. Anne asks in the chat what the off-ramp specific. Another context about Cornell is we don't teach a course lower than calculus here, and so that's our situation. But we do have a calculus preparation course that students can off-ramp into to salvage their mathematics credit for the semester.
Good, very good. Okay, well, thank you for answering that question. I was going to ask you about the off-ramp. And are they, just a word about it, is it, how long are these courses? How much time is devoted?
So those courses are typically, well, what we did is I think we added a section that was a 7-week course, so that students in the middle of the semester, rather than realizing that they were just going to lose out on any math credit for the semester, and sort of general education credits, they could switch into that 7 weeks in. Are the off-ramp classes free, or must students pay? So Cornell does not pay by, students do not pay by credit. They pay they pay sort of tuition for the semester. So that's included in their tuition.
Pay extra for it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Tara. So let me turn to Bill and learn a little bit about what's going on at UMBC.
Thanks, Britt, and thanks, Tipsy, for the invite to be on this panel. I definitely feel special among all these mathematicians out there. But, to get a little street cred here, I am an analytical chemist, so I've been dealing with math for a while out there. I like dealing with models and how I think about things. And I know the title of this is about disconnect, but this to me feels like, I wanted to title this the COVID hangover, right? We have been through this whole process, of the fun. And the fun here is in quotes because it's all the things that happened during the COVID pandemic. But now it's back to reality, and we have these leftover effects that we have to deal with on the other side of it. And so the question is, we have students that have come through a different interventions or online learning. We have test optional. All these are different combinations at different institutions for it. Flexible with absences, faculty had to be very flexible in what they had to do, masking. And I'm going to agree, and I'm assuming that most people will, that there is a significant knowledge deficit that has occurred here. And it's heterogeneous at different levels depending on where students went and where they came from. But I'm going to argue that I think I heard about it with Tara saying it there, there's another challenge here, is this socialization and community deficit, how to integrate and how to get with one another, how to form student groups. And I think there's also a bit of an accountability issue on this. It's been very easy sometimes to hide behind the mask in a much bigger, metaphoric sense than just the physical mask that's there. Lots of evidence that we have issues going here. The placement scores overall were lower. And students, whether through placement scores or by themselves, are opting into lower level courses than we have seen in the past. And anecdotally, we do hear about poor performance at downstream courses or higher level courses that will manifest itself over a number of years as we go forward. And probably for a dean, the frustration of faculty, it's just not the same. And that is an issue for us to deal with as well. So what approaches have we done to ameliorate this? Well, first of all, again, you're going to hear the same thing from us, hopefully, because we're trying to do the best practices out there, is to really increase the services that have already been out there dramatically. In tutoring, students, supplemental instructions are way up. In fact, I looked into it a little bit. Right now, 6 weeks in, or about 6 weeks in when I got the data, we have already had more tutoring, people come to tutoring in SI courses than we had in the entire fall 2019 semester, which was one of our highest. So people are coming, and we're doing a lot of things online, like nudging and to get people in there. And the other one that I think is interesting is student disability support services, where they go and they get the accommodation letters. And we're seeing a dramatic increases. We have one class where there are 50 students that need to have accommodations. That's double extended times. And this is pushing pressure on a lot of the units within the university. When it comes to the math courses, we kind of broke it down into issues. I did a survey from them in the department. It's early awareness. People are coming in not even aware of their deficit. You know, they made it through high school, they graduated. You know, someone put a stamp of approval here. So these prerequisite quiz zero early exams are being used for people to get a self-awareness, right? It doesn't have to be they have to have a grade in it, but just to show them themselves where they knew it. And then that pushes them, I think, into these tutoring scenarios, into Alex. We use Alex for placement, where it has review software on there. The other one is that rewarding improvement has become important. Finding opportunities for students that when they get into this, they see they may have an issue, can we reward them? And that has to do with replacement of quiz grades. And some of these have been standard, but real important, probably an increase in the number of faculty that take the final exam and replace one of the lower ones that have taken place. And then the other one is the big one about the re-engaging students. And so the idea of more online, they're used to online. So put more of these things on, flexible exam schedule and more course set supplements, various resources. Faculty are using software that are interactive so they can see what they know and don't know, and there's a wide number of them. And the other one is to go to some of the channels, you know, to the communication networks they use. And one of them is this Discord that gamers use. And so they use that a lot to talk with one another. The other one is we have these, we've implemented some co-courses where they can have accelerated learning in the first 6 weeks to 5 weeks of the course, so they can get up to snuff very quickly in there and not lose that time to degree as going forward. And the other one is the college has put on an academic success coach to go through numerous workshops to get people used to the transition, to see, you know, how to budget their time, because it's different now. It's not online. It's you have to be there. And then the ones that I think that I've recently that I think has just been spectacular is study group formation, which is an essential part, has been shown to work, but it is a social activity. And if you don't have the socialization skills down, have you even been with classmates? And some of these haven't even been in the classroom for a year. We now just open up a room. We encouraged it to begin with, and now by classes, we're inviting them in, helping them in the situation, but they're organically forming groups. So again, it comes down to doing more of what we've done before and making a more concerted effort, because this is an issue that's going to be with us for possibly a generation. So we need to know how to get over it, to work with it and learn from it as we come out the other side. So
Bill, don't want to project a negative, but do you anticipate a higher number of D's and F's in this semester, and what will that do to enrollment patterns in the spring?
Well, I think the idea is to avoid the higher D's and F's, right, in the process, and that's why we are making every effort up front in the process to make the change as we go forward, and we will follow those numbers closely.
Yeah.
I think what's been wonderful is that the math and stat, we're talking math and stat combined here, and my other departments under the college are well aware of our responsibility as a state public institution to help and to do everything we can to make these students successful, because COVID was not brought in by them, it was forced upon them. So I am going to project that we will do everything possible to make their, and it's going to be multiple years of doing these helpful situations.
Bill, someone asked if you could just say a word more about the co-courses.
Co-course is basically going into this, we knew we have that there would be issues. And so the idea was to set up a 5 to 6 week course that goes into an accelerated background topics. It preps them on the concepts that would need to go forward and gets the students that may feel that they, or the quiz zeros or the prerequisite course shows that they might have some issues with, to get in there early and catch up to the rest of the course. And then they basically, it's taken at the same time as the other course. And the students then slide, you know, they're always in the other one, and then they're able to continue on right through to the end. And this is something we've been piloting. We've been experimenting with different approaches, whether conceptual or procedural type approaches to doing it. And to a large degree, it's helping students be more successful to stay in those courses.
Yeah, sometimes I think these are called co-requisite courses.
Co-requisite courses, although this one we're not requiring it.
Yeah, gotcha.
It's
Yeah.
more allowing
Okay.
them to do it on their own.
Well, thank you, Bill. Kimberly, let's hear from you.
Thank you. LSSU is the smallest state university in Michigan. We have about 1,600 students, and we're at Access University. So in a normal year, more than 60% of our students need developmental math at the beginning or intermediate algebra level. A majority of our students are low income Pell eligible, and more than half of our students are also first generation. So kind of as our normal, we're used to providing probably a lot more supports at that level than a lot of universities. And so we kind of think of it as our thing, is the thing we do well. Is a larger percent of students than you would think for a university our size are in engineering, science, fisheries and wildlife, and need a lot of math. And so we've been graduating people that started off in developmental maths in those careers for a very long time. So we are seeing a difference in math ability as far as what they know coming in, just like everyone else here. We're also seeing a lack of willingness to challenge their math placement. So we do also use the ALEX placement exam, and there are the learning modules, so they can take that up to 5 times and work through the learning modules to test higher. But we're not seeing many students that are willing to take it more than once. And so sometimes they are entering at a level that is too low for them and ending up failing the class because they're placed too low. So some of the things we're doing is looking at math placement and how we can do that a little bit better so that we don't have such a wide mixture of students in the developmental math classes, those who just need a quick refresher and those who need more extensive support. Another thing that we're seeing is just lack of attendance. So students disappear for weeks at a time and come back and don't seem to understand that it's not flexible learning all the time, that they can't make up everything that they want to make up. And they also seem to have become used to being able to Zoom into class when they had COVID and are expecting those kind of things now. So even if they just want to go to Florida for a week to avoid our winter, they would like to Zoom into the class. And so faculty are expressing some frustration. And then, like some of you said, we're also seeing an increase in general anxiety levels of our students and the ability to cope with college life in any number of ways. And faculty are trying to address that. So how are they addressing it? One thing I would say is that maybe more so than any other year, they're diving into the research and best practices. They felt like they were using that before, right? But things were going well and now they're not. So they're trying to see, is there any more recent research out there that they can apply? So we have instructors that have been teaching for decades, trying things like class preparation assignments, prerequisite assignments, or videos, just-in-time remediation. We tried some proficiency models in our developmental math class. That was with mixed results. One faculty member this semester is trying some standard-based grading methods that he read about in an article by Kate Owens. They're also integrating other things into the math classes, like teaching students about Dweck's research on growth mindset, or Duckworth's research on grit, Treisman models for cooperative learning. So I really applaud the faculty for, really diving down and being willing to try other things. They're not all working, but it really shows that they care and want to adjust to this, what we hope is not the new normal. Another thing that our university has done, and we started it before COVID hit as far as writing the grant, but we did receive a Title III grant that provides more counseling, some intrusive advising, increased services. And we also developed what we call an Anchor Advantage program for our conditionally admitted students that does even more intrusive advising and kind of follows them through their classes. We've tried an accelerated developmental model for beginning and intermediate algebra for those students who just need a refresher. It allows them to finish beginning and intermediate algebra in one semester so that they can still get to college level math in their second semester. So again, mixed results, but we are trying different things. So I think one of the things that faculty in my areas are looking for is more research to be done, more efforts to kind of see what is working, and to try to figure out what is kind of unique to LSSU and what is more of a national global problem.
Very good. So Kimberly, do you use the co-requisite model at all in your math classes?
No, we don't at this time. We have considered it. Some of the faculty are trying to do, as I said, some just-in-time remediation, but it's not a formal co-requisite class. Yeah. So they will, give an assignment over prerequisite material before a chapter, and provide videos for them to review that prerequisite material. And in some cases, flip the classroom for the material in the class as well, so that they can spend more time in class having students work problems and get immediate feedback.
Yeah, there were several questions in the chat about the co-requisite model. I wonder, Bill, do you have data on its use at UMBC? You're on mute, Bill.
Yeah, we are in the process of collecting that data at the moment. We started this a while back under a Browski Innovation Award, and so we are collecting data. So at some point, but I don't have it at the moment.
Okay. Very good. All right. Okay, I don't see any burning question in the chat at the moment. So I think we're ready to go to the breakout sessions where let's have a kind of a lightning round commentary from our moderators. Let me start with Michael.
All right, thanks. I'd love to be the first volunteer here. So our group had I think a really good discussion. I'm sure there's a lot of overlap on things that we talked about. Two things that impressed me that we discussed. One was Jennifer Austin and Leah Rennick, hopefully I got their names right here, talked about having undergraduate assistants who come into the low-level courses to help out the instructor. And they could be doing things like, so they would be coming to class every day, and they would maybe roam around the class when class was working in breakout groups. They could answer questions. They could get on chat. Not all the faculty perhaps are very good with social media aspects, and so maybe this UGrad assistant could help out the students in doing things like that. Another thing that was mentioned too that I think is a kind of a nice idea. Brianna McGinnis brought this up, was that kind of requiring all students to attend their academic center or the instructor's office hours, just so that they are aware of where that is and where the office hours of the professors is, or where the academic center is, so that they may feel more comfortable than to go to those places when they need help during the semester. We talked a little bit also about the difficulty of what do you do with the students who do drop out, who just disappear for a week or two or sometime a period like that, and trying to contact them. And people commented about, people commented about trying to reach out to them through different avenues, but it's still, that's a tough issue that I would love to hear if any other groups came up with some great ideas on that. So I'll stop at that.
Okay, thank you. Scott?
Yes, so certainly we talked about multiple topics in some type of order. One is the need for data on some of these auxiliary supplemental approaches that people are posing. That is, so for co-requisites, how effective are they? I'm going to add it for mentoring or tutoring. How effective is this? Any socialization activities, how effective? Then for these same activities, these activities take resources, and the resources could be money, it could be more undergraduate assistance, and more to the point, it could be more instructor time. And so there's the question of where's that come from? Is it being paid for? How's it affect workload? Certainly, I think there were no great solutions. Just, it was pointed out that these are significant challenges. Then the matter of, so it's common to be shortening your syllabi. We had discussion, is this done on an ad hoc individual instructor basis, or is there any organization to it going on? And one suggestion posed was to use learning outcomes as one way to coordinate shortening the syllabi. Learning outcomes, because they're general enough, you might actually get colleagues to agree about learning outcomes, whereas getting them to agree about which section to take out of chapter 6 can be a very difficult conversation. And then I'm going to say, personally, my own case, the biggest point I've learned today is that in addition to learning matters, there's a whole realm of expectations matters that have changed because we're downstream from the pandemic. Expectations part of faculty, expectations part of students, and I guess also expectations a part of administrators. And these are very complex matters. I'll stop there.
Okay, Julie, I forget who the other moderators.
Dan Drill and Kevin.
Okay, Kevin?
We had a free-ranging conversation. Scott, mentioned expectations, and that was something that we talked about, where several people have seen that students expect to be able to not come to class for a while and then come back and make everything up. They expect to be able to, I didn't do poorly in that test. When's the makeup? Because during the pandemic, evidently, they were allowed to just repeatedly make stuff up until they got it, which, I mean, on one hand, that's standards-based grading, right? And master grading in a way. If you can do it that way, that's great. But at scale, that's hard to do. We also talked a bit about how I mean, I brought up sorts of various faculty issues. How are faculty dealing with all this? I know we're talking about our students, but how is this going to play out? You know, with increased DFW rates, for example, with tenure and promotion. And it was one of the people in our group suggested that, you know, that their administration has basically said and communicated well to faculty like, this is not your problem. This is a larger problem than your individual class, and so we have to take that into account. My own university did that to some extent too. So since we're almost out of time, I'm just going to stop there.
Okay, great. And the other moderator, Kendra?
Hi. Yes, Dandriel. So
Sorry, thank you.
that's okay. In our session, what we discussed, there was a lot of frustration because students are now expecting to get everything in class as opposed to being motivated to do homework and activities outside of class. So we were looking for solutions and things that people have done, and people have tried a lot of things, but it seems like nothing is working there. Students were overwhelmed by prerequisites, et cetera. So we talked about using the classroom for active learning and problem solving, flipped classroom styles. Some departments have some sections devoted for completely online sections available. Some students some programs are investing in more flexibility. So one other thing we discussed was for the online sections that some of the things that were experienced was cheating, online cheating,
Yes.
and how to deal with that. So some departments have a part online, part handwritten policy, and some have to have the final exam proctored in person, and they've been able to see some things happen that way. Some other solutions with one-on-one testing.
Okay, well, thank you. Not much that hasn't been mentioned in my group. There were two ideas put forth. One by Ed Thomas from Murray State about getting grants to support boot camps in the summer before students enter, which seemed logical to me in that funding agencies will recognize there is this learning deficit. And so there might be some opportunity to get funding to support, to work with these students before they begin the fall semester. And I apologize for dropping the name, but there was also a very interesting course at Brandeis it was called a dropout course. So if someone's going to drop out of a course, they go into another course that addresses some of their deficiencies, actually earn credit in that course, and the success rate when they retook the course was pretty high. So I think we are about out of time. Let me just say that we have heard you, and we recognize the challenge that we have, and we want to try to follow up in some way. So we're going to send out a survey to the participants and get your thoughts on what TIPSY might do in partnership with you and others to work on this problem, whether we go for grants, we have workshops, whatever the ideas might be. So I just want to first thank our panelists for their excellent presentations, all of you for participating, and to let you know you'll be hearing from us, and we'll try to gather your best thoughts and see what might be the most constructive ways to follow up on what we all agree is a very substantial and real problem. Again, thank you for your participation, and we look forward to continuing this discussion.
Thanks, Brett.